So the Heat beat the Nuggets 111-108. And I want to talk about the biggest storyline revolving this game, and that's Nikola Jokic being made into a scorer. And Eric
storyline.
Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, your untrained eye.
Nah, not my untrained eye. Eric Spoelstra called out Ramona Shelburne for her question, and he was like, it's just the untrained eye that says something like that, and just basically praised Jokic. So what are your thoughts on Game 2 about the strategy, I guess, of Jokic scoring more points, and is that because the Heat were forcing him to do that, or are there other factors involved?
Riff.
Oh, you wanted me to go first. My bad.
Come on, bro. You always
he usually says the name after he
low-key
drops.
does.
He
I'm not
usually
gonna say you're
drops the
wrong.
name.
You're not wrong.
I'm looking directly at you.
I wasn't looking. I was looking at my screen. My fault, gang. We here.
Get to it before I skip you.
You want to go?
No.
I think it was more just MPJ wasn't hitting shots. The team just wasn't. The Joker had it going. I think if you have it going offensively as a star player, it's right to keep it going. And the way they were playing defensively, they were leaving the Joker a little bit open or one-on-one coverage. He had Cody Zeller on him at times. He had Kevin Love on him at times. It just was a matter of he was taking advantage of the mismatches or he was taking advantage of the opportunities he had. The Denver Nuggets weren't hitting shots at a great clip. They were missing a couple shots. So he felt the need to take over when it was time to need. I think when people say turn him into a scorer is the game plan is really dumb. I think that quite literally doesn't make sense. He's like a 24, 25 points per game scorer, and he ups it up to like 27, 28 in the playoffs. So that's weird to just say, if you turn him into a scorer, then, the game plan looks a lot differently. No, he just turns into a scorer when his teammates aren't shooting the ball well. They're a very fluid offense, a great offense. They work off each other, and if everybody doesn't have it going, the Joker takes advantage. To talk about the game for a little bit, though, the Miami Heat just showed why they're the best fourth quarter team in the postseason. I mean, they had like 189 offensive rating.
It was insane.
In the fourth, they just couldn't miss. Defensively, they were sound. They didn't turn the ball over. Especially late in that fourth quarter, you saw a lot of mental lapses. With Denver, they had a couple offensive fouls. Miami was set on their defense. They was beating them to the spots. Defensively, they were able to get some calls their way. And there was a lot of shaky calls on both ends in the fourth for both teams. So I'm not going to even talk about the refs. But just the way defensively Miami was very sound and they was very technical in their defensive performance in the fourth quarter especially. I mean, this team, and then Jimmy Butler finally got it going late in the fourth quarter. Gabe Vincent got it going. Bam Adebayo was great all game. It's just this team pulls shit out their ass pretty much and just becomes resilient, becomes, all right, let's lock in. Spo calls that one timeout, and then they come out, they start to get it going, lock in defensively. This team just has all the resilience in the world. And KCP said it to a degree. They didn't play well. The Denver Nuggets did not play well that game, and they almost won that game. But still, you got to look at the Miami and look at their defense and feel like, this is a defense that no matter who do they have on the other side, they are very sound, they're technical, and they get stops. And that's the one thing that they can look to for this game.
The Nuggets had two moments in Game 2 that they played really good basketball. It was that stretch when Jokic was off the court in that second quarter, when I believe it was a 14-2 run when Jokic wasn't on the court. Jamal was just getting out in transition. They were just getting some easy buckets. And then it was like the last 3 minutes of the game when they suddenly just started to turn it on. Jamal, you mentioned it, started to go crazy. Aaron Gordon hit a clutch shot. Jokic was just unbelievably dominant in the paint. He throws it up. I'm just going to assume that it's going in. He has probably the smoothest touch at the rim a big man could have in the association, right now at least. So I look at this game, and I think I agree with that statement. That the Nuggets, for a majority of this game, did not play well. However, in the two moments that they did, you see the high level of basketball that they can play. But to talk about the Miami Heat, you mentioned their fourth quarter resiliency. I believe, this is their 8th win now after trailing by double digits this postseason run. Mm-hmm. They have been unbelievable when playing from behind. Bam Adebayo, he's been spectacular. Probably top 2 favorite if you're a Miami Heat fan to win the Finals MVP. Can't exclude Gabe Vincent from this conversation. Was the leading scorer for the Miami Heat in Game 2. He was huge for them, hitting clutch threes. I believe he had 4 threes. Duncan Robinson called lightning in a bottle again. Let's not say lightning in a bottle because this whole postseason run, for a majority outside of probably the Knicks series, he's been extremely valuable for them. Caleb Martin struggled. He had a huge 3 down the stretch of the game. The Miami Heat just knew how to answer for every punch that the Denver Nuggets had given them. Jimmy Butler was struggling. I believe he had 8 points in the fourth quarter. It just does not matter what you do to the Miami Heat early in the game. Unless you are 100% locked in to close out the game, the Miami Heat can come back and steal a win from you. Stealing home court advantage is huge. Denver Nuggets had been undefeated up until that point. The Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra, they've had a great game plan for this Denver Nuggets offense. They decided to turn it into a zone. It's forced and clogged the middle of the paint for Nikola Jokic. It's been a little bit more difficult for him to make passes. But the whole turning him into a scorer was, I do look at it as a little bit of nonsense. Jokic understands, hey, my guys don't have it going. This is when I have to assert myself as the best scorer on my team, and we know that he can take it to that level. But to the people that think that all you have to do is turn him into a scorer, I understand where they're kind of coming from to a degree. Tweet from Nick Wright. Never a great thing if you're going to use Nick Wright as a reference. I do like Nick Wright, so it's funny I say that. So he says the Nuggets this regular season were 34-4 when Jokic had 10-plus assists and 14-17 when he didn't. So again, just very basic, not real analysis, not really watching the game.
So when his team isn't hitting shots, they don't win.
Exactly. Shocking. One guy makes shots, other guys don't. They lose the game. But again, when he scores 40 points, the team does not have a win either. So that's pretty interesting to really look at. The Nuggets need to hit shots. You've seen it. MPJ has struggled these first two games. KCP really hasn't gotten it going either. Jamal, he just knows how to turn it on whenever. You can trust Jamal Murray, no doubt about it. But I look at MPJ, I look at KCP. These are guys that have been two of the most consistent players for the Denver Nuggets all regular season long and all postseason long. For the finals to start and them to go ghost, that's not what you want if you're a Denver Nuggets fan. But I agree with him. I believe that for a majority of this game, the Nuggets played poorly. They did not play with energy. They were missing wide open, really good looks. And I think that they have to come out aggressive this game 3, understanding that you go down 2-1. It's not an ideal situation, especially understanding that Miami themselves are a great home team as well. So I do look for game 3 to be exciting. I do expect Jimmy Butler to have a better, probably his best performance in one of these two games in Miami. He really hasn't gone into that place really since he had those moments in Boston. But really, it's that Bucks series. We put it up on Instagram. Just the numbers from the first series in Milwaukee versus the rest of the postseason. It's been a pretty steep decline, but he's done a great job of getting his teammates involved, and you could probably pair that with the ankle injury with the Knicks. So I do expect Denver to still come out on fire.
And they shot from 33% from the three-point line to 48% from the three-point line. Miami from game 1 to game 2. So the three ball was falling this game.
And the Nuggets shot well. They shot, I believe, 39% from 3. It's just that MPJ, it does not seem that he's the same confident dude that we've seen him be. I get the ball, I shoot it, it's going to go in. But it's starting to heighten the fact that we're now looking at him and say, hey, if you're not making the shots that you usually make, now we're going to start talking about your lack of playmaking. Now we're going to start talking about your lack of dribbling. You're not on the level of Jaylen Brown, but you don't want to be put into that conversation where people are being hypercritical of you, even though he's been a great defensive player this postseason.
I don't know about the MPJ thing. I think that he plays a role, and he just needs to hit shots and defend.
But when you don't, that's when people start to criticize your game.
I don't think that we're going to knock him for playmaking or nothing else. I think Jaylen Brown gets that criticism because he's the second star on his team. MPJ's not that.
MPJ's still getting paid.
He's getting paid, but he's playing a role within Denver, and that's my thing. I think you get criticized for not hitting your shots and not playing well and energetic on defense. That's it. I'm not going to dig too deep into the MPJ criticism. You get paid to do two things, and that's what I think he needs to do well. I think the Jokic stat when the Nuggets are winless when he scores 40 points is a coincidence. I don't think it has anything to do with when he scores, Denver loses. Part of it is, of course, Denver's not hitting their shots at the rate that they usually would hit their shots at. But in this game, Denver had a 126 offensive rating. I'm not going to blame one player in MPJ and maybe half of KCP because he was 1 for 3 from 3 on why the Nuggets lost this game. I think Denver lost this game defensively, plain and simple. In the fourth quarter, I don't care how hot you are from 3. I don't care how many shots you're making. A 189 offensive rating is a combination of miscommunication on defense and also hot shooting. That's an absurd rate to have. And Miami has been exceptional in fourth quarters all playoffs long. That's why
a lot of open looks.
When I picked the Nuggets in 6, I said, listen, I think that the Miami's going to win some of these games in the fourth quarter. And game 2 is one of those games they won in the fourth quarter. they're doing an amazing job on Jokic, just sending different zone looks at him. They had a 1-3-1 zone on him at one point, which whenever he got the ball at the free throw line, it wasn't a clean, free entry pass within it. And then when he gets the ball, they collapse on him, so he's not able to read out the court like he usually would be able to. But Jokic understands how he has to play when defenses play him in that way. He has to be more aggressive. He has to score more. And we saw in the fourth quarter, every time down, it was Jokic getting a basket. And occasionally we had the Jamal Murray three that put the game within reach for them. Sure. But they lost this game defensively 100%. Duncan Robinson scoring all of his points in the fourth quarter. I mean, how many of those were just defensive lapses from Denver? And I'm going to give Miami credit because these sets that they're running, they have so many different sets for different situations within the game that they're able to generate these open looks. And for me, when I'm looking at these games, I'm looking at games 1 and game 2. The amount of open threes they are giving up to Miami is alarming.
For sure.
Game 1, Miami was missing their open shots. They shot 33% from 3, but I'm not just going to attribute this to hot shooting. You know, I can say that maybe against the Celtics because Caleb Martin it was an anomaly what he did. I'm going to say that. I think it was. But the Heat players playing this well all playoffs long, you look at what they've been last year as a first seed, how they shot last year versus this year. Duncan Robinson, him not being a good three-point shooter, was kind of just like a bad shooting stretch, although it lasted a long time. Max Strus as well, because these guys are good shooters. So for me, if Denver's going to continue to give up these open looks, then it's a big red flag for how this series could go. I do expect MPJ to come back to earth and play better. Mike Malone has to figure out how to handle these Jamal Murray pick and rolls when he's getting blitzed off them, because when they're playing zone, they usually blitz Jamal Murray. So they're going to have to figure out all that stuff out. And what Miami's doing, going 5 out and inserting Kevin Love into the game, has really changed this series around and how Miami's able to expand their offense. Because now Bam Adebayo is playing more like a point guard. And it's very similar to how Sabonis, Jokic, and these point centers run their offense. I think Bam Adebayo is best when he is being used as a point center and he's able to pick his spots, pass when the defense forces him to pass, and score when he has good open lanes to the basket. So I think Miami, game 2, they showed that they are a real threat. And Denver in 6, I still have that. But Miami is really proving that this could be a series. And especially if they take game 3, now we're starting to get into territory where game 4 is must win. Mm-hmm. I know we've seen Denver come back down 3-1 before, but I don't think it'll happen again. So they have to steal one in Miami, whether it's game 3 or game 4. But I'm hoping they do a game 3, because if they go down 2-1, it's really looking bad for Denver.
Yeah, and it felt like going into this series, Miami needed to take one in Denver, because we felt like if they got 2 at home, that's going to be really hard to overcome with the altitude, just their home court advantage. But getting one Denver's huge. Talk about the Jokic stat. 0-3 when he scores 40 or more in the playoffs specifically. The first time was the game 4 against Minnesota, where, they made a crazy comeback in the fourth quarter, pushed it to overtime. They lost. And the other one was game 5, I want to say. I have
the Suns.
Game 4 against the Suns, where that was a game Devin Booker didn't miss, 14 of 18, right? I think the Suns scored like 129 points, and then this most recent game. So like Joel said, I think that's more of a coincidence than anything, because it's not like Jokic is being inefficient or like jacking threes. Like, that's not Jokic's game. He's going out there, he's giving you 40, and even that Suns game, he would have 53 on like 67% shooting.
And it's not even like Denver's playing bad. Like you just mentioned, the Suns had to have a historic performance on Devin Booker. And KD had a 30-point triple-double in that game, too. You had to have 2 30-point double-doubles to beat Denver. Denver was not playing bad, so when Jokic scores a shit ton of points, Denver still overall doesn't play horrible as a team. It's just these other teams are playing lights out. They're playing even better.
Yeah, and especially in that third quarter of this past game, like, Jokic just got in that mode. He was doing some shit. I mean, like
18 in the third.
Court to court, from one side to the other, taking it down, hitting the layup. Like, he was just hitting some shots, like, almost like a heat check, but since he's not shooting threes, he's just like, I'm just going to throw some shit up, and it was going in
Really,
more
that's
often
how
than
it
not.
looked.
But I really thought the Heat in the first quarter set the tone. They were only up 3 going into the second, but I thought that first quarter was really important because it set the tone early, right? Max Strus hit his first 3 or 4 threes. Bam Adebayo with a little pick and roll jump shot from the free throw line, and the Nuggets were struggling. I mean, offensively, they felt like lost, and everything just felt really hard coming offensively. Wow. But then, you got to give credit to the Heat for really locking in because they, coming into this game, was must win. We're talking about Game 3 being a must win for Denver. This was must win game for the Heat. And it was obvious. Spo went into that locker room after Game 1 and really told them, like, we got to lock in. But even after that, only being up 3 going to the second quarter, the Nuggets, as always, they're going to respond, right? So they went onto that run, fall into the third quarter. A bunch of the role players stepped up. I thought Christian Brown gave some really good minutes. Jeff Green and Bruce Brown contributed. But then the fourth quarter, Riv, like you mentioned, it was just one of those signature fourth quarter moments from the Miami Heat where Duncan Robinson started off the quarter with an 8-2 run by himself. I mean, we talk about the 3-point shooting, but something that he's even add to this game was just like the cutting, the backdoor cuts that makes it so difficult to defend him because I feel like prior to this real playoff run, Duncan Robinson, we really just know him as a shooter. And this playoff run, he's done more limited, but more off the dribble, getting to the rim, hitting contested layups. So when you bring that into that, and you know how deadly he is from 3, it puts just that much more pressure on the defense. So the fact that he was able to score 8 by himself, and then, Nuggets did cut it down to 3. And to talk about the Jamal Murray shot for a second, because we didn't touch on that, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought Jamal Murray took a look that
he was hot.
Wasn't a bad look. That's a
timeout.
That's a shot I've seen Jamal Murray
just hit
make.
2 back-to-back bangers.
Yeah, like you could call a timeout, but now that you call a timeout, you probably foul right away off the timeout. You're not even gonna get a point for a 3.
I'm
the
fine
Heat
with
are
it.
able to could set either they want to do zone, man, whatever they want to do in that situation. They have time to communicate. So I prefer not taking the timeout, given that he ended up getting a decent look. I've seen Jamal Murray hit that shot. I've seen him hit tough contested threes. So I didn't have a problem with it. But going into Game 3, it feels like a must-win. For the Nuggets, because if they go down 2-1, now all the momentum swings back to Miami. Now you're in Miami for a Game 4 where now it's really do or die.
And Christian Brown was a part of the biggest run that Denver made in the game.
Sure.
He was the spark that they needed. Once he was inserted, his defense, his ferociousness, his offense in transition, he was really the spark that led a big-time Denver run, and he was great.